Hey, so I thought I would make another video today, and I want to talk about astrology, and I want to talk about the Sun square Neptune aspect, just a little discussion around this aspect, because I've been thinking and reading a lot about this aspect. It is an aspect that I have myself, and it's something that is really, it's kind of coming to the fore of my mind a lot lately. I'm kind of thinking about ways in which my behavior, or people I know who have similar aspects or who have this aspect, how their behavior is reflecting this aspect, and how like we have certain signatures that we come into this life with, right? And so this is one it's quite a difficult signature to come in with. It's one of the what I would consider one of my own, challenges, struggles, in terms of the aspects that I have. And I wanted to just kind of do a little discussion about this aspect. So I'm actually going to read from a few articles as well that I was reading today. So I'll use some information from those articles as well, because they really help me get a better understanding of this aspect. And I'll link those articles below as well. So really, my understanding of Sun square Neptune, or Sun-Neptune in general, but particularly the square, because I have that myself, so I kind of want to focus on that for now. The Sun square Neptune, or Sun-Neptune aspects in general, they kind of indicate that there's like a loss of self. And in the case of the square, for example, it really is sort of that there was something that happened in the childhood, or in the way that you were brought up, raised, and the experiences you had when you were really young, like that made you kind of lose a sense of self. There's something that you can't hold on to quite strongly. Like there's something that you don't have a strong sense of something to hold on to, which can be something inside yourself, like your identity. So it can kind of Sun Neptune can really indicate in someone's birth chart that there is a lack of sense of self, for better or worse. So, or there's something in the sense of self that is fragmented. And a lot of the articles that I've read about talk about a relationship with the father being either weak, or maybe the father was not strongly present in the childhood. Whether they were physically absent or you were away from them. In my case, I was away from my father for a period of time. And also, Neptune is the planet of alcohol and drugs and other substances, right? So in my case, my dad was an alcoholic, and so that meant that there was something in his psychology and his own troubles and issues that sort of didn't allow him to fully show up in a really strong way, in like a strong way that the Sun-Neptune person could kind of look up to this person. And funnily enough, Sun-Neptune is very idealistic, so it's almost like Sun-Neptune needs someone to look up to. It has this kind of imagination and this idealistic vision, right? So ideally, a Sun-Neptune person would have someone to look up to like that, which I never really felt like I had a strong sense of looking up to someone in a really strong way, in a very coherent way. And so I think with Sun-Neptune, especially with the square, with other aspects like the trine and sextile as well, but in a different way, the Sun-Neptune person will want to fill that void somehow. So I think that's why Sun-Neptune can be so beautiful as well, because these can be the people who are artists or musicians, or there's something that they're trying to like fill a gap or fill a void that maybe they don't have a recollection of themselves in their childhood as being somehow connected to their father or their parents, and so they're trying to fill that void with some sort of beauty, with art, with music, with trying to strive for something better, with having like idealistic visions and like dreams. Sun-Neptune, it can be very dreamy as well. And so I definitely thought it was interesting that, a lot of the articles that I read about Sun square Neptune in particular, because I'm so fascinated by that particular aspect right now, because it's something that I have and that I struggle with, is that, you know, the articles do talk often about the relationship with the father being somehow fragmented, or there isn't a strong support from the father, or there isn't, you know, something in the father is maybe not allowing him to really show up. And so that can cause sort of a fragmented sense of self, and also weakness in yourself. Or there's an element of you, there might be other things going on in the chart that are very strong, but there's an element of you that is psychologically vulnerable because you miss that strong support from your father. For example, just as an example, there might be other things going on that cause this, but there can be an element in the person that, like, there is something that's missing, and then you try to, like, fill the void with beauty or art, or with imagination, idealism. Or you might just also feel like there's a part of you that is sort of like fragmented and broken, and there's like a little child inside of you that is vulnerable. And so some of these articles talk about how, you know, the Sun square Neptune people can be taken advantage of more than some other aspects. You know, this is an aspect that, like, there's one article even that I thought it was interesting that says that it's very extreme, but it says that, I'm going to link all these articles. It says that, this is from Astrology King. It says that, you know, because of your insecurities and gullibility, stronger people will bully or try to deceive you. Others may have trouble trusting you or feel you are up to no good. This is not the case, but when young, you can have this perception of guilt. You wear a label around your neck saying, pick on me, or I'm guilty. And so it's like, there's like a vulnerability in these people that makes other people, maybe some stronger individuals, will kind of take advantage, or just kind of frighten the Sun-Neptune person, or just deceive them or manipulate them in some way. Like there's something suspicious going on. And it also says hesitation, misinterpretation, and false accusations can make you susceptible to discrimination, controversy, and scandal. I mean, I'm not going to read everything because there's so many things that I read about that really hit home for me, and I thought it was really interesting. But there is something hesitant. I like that word for this aspect. There is something hesitant about Sun-Neptune and Sun square Neptune in particular, because the person is not sure of themselves on some level. Like, there's other things going on in the chart, but there's an element of this person. This particular aspect is showing that there's something that is like missing, or there's like, maybe comes from the relationship with the father, or the way the father was absent, or an alcoholic, or on drugs or something. So there's something that's like a part of you that is like, your inner guidance is sort of missing or fragmented. And so there is this hesitant personality that can come from this. Like, this person can be sort of hesitant, doesn't come across very confident all the time. And so an obvious piece of advice that I would give, and that I see a lot when it comes to this aspect, is that, you know, it is about working on your confidence and your sense of self. And it's so hard to do, but it is possible. So it's kind of about having experiences that are positive and encouraging, so that you can build up a sense of self through what you can now see that you're able to do. So if you can see that you've done like these 5 things really well, then that can maybe help you build a sense of self, because you can start to associate yourself with those things that you've done. Does that make sense? So to have experiences that are positive and uplifting and encouraging will actually potentially increase your sense of self and your confidence. And a lot of times Sun-Neptune people will excel in creative arts, because, you know, there's that Neptune idealism and that imagination and the creativity of Neptune. It's kind of like pulling from some other world almost. It's not earthy, it's not very grounded. And so that can be beautiful, it can be artistic, right? So I think, you know, if you're trying to find a sense of self as a Sun-Neptune person, you know, the answer may lie somewhere in creativity. So if you become an artist, for example, or musician or something, or even help others, it's a very compassionate placement as well. Neptune is very compassionate and about charity and things like that. So maybe through creativity or helping people, either of those, you can find your sense of self, because then you can actually become an artist, for example, and that can kind of make you have a sense of self, or it can improve or strengthen your sense of self. Another theme of Sun Neptune, and particularly Sun square Neptune, I want to focus on that the most, is that there may be escapist behaviors, or there may be behaviors that sort of take you away from reality, because you already have a weak sense of self and identity and what you're here to do, and so you're almost trying to you're trying to get out of reality in some way, because there's already a fragmentation inside of you almost. So certain activities, personally, like in my case, I wouldn't be super sort of escapist, but I can see as well that certain activities that I do would kind of take me away from what needs to be done, for instance, or just take me away from reality. Like even my love of music, like I'm obsessed with music, so that can take me away from reality, and so it can be a positive thing as well. But it can also mean that I neglect other areas of life, and Sun square Neptune is very sensitive and vulnerable and susceptible to like beauty, but it can also be sensitive in the more negative sense of the word. So like I said, people can take advantage, or there's an element of not really knowing who you are, not really standing your ground, because you don't always know where you stand on things. So there's that. But it is possible to work on these things, and I feel like I'm doing that. And I also wanted to mention the word vague when it comes to Sun square Neptune, because there's one article that mentions that you may come off as kind of vague, because again, there's a psychological imprint that is fragmented. There's something that is like fragmented, and so that can come across as sort of airy-fairy or vague, and it's because you feel like something inside you is missing, or there is something that was lost in childhood, for example, like maybe parents weren't together, or father was an alcoholic, or you were away from the father or something like that, so you didn't have a strong guidance from him. But so that kind of created this fragmentation, but I already went through that. And so I'm going to finish up soon, but I think Sun square Neptune and certain Sun Neptune aspects can be difficult to deal with because of this weak sense of self, or this kind of confusion or vagueness or fragmentation. But like I said, creativity and helping people can help you, and it's important. And I think it's it can be beneficial to understand the source of these things, and I think reading a lot of these articles definitely has made me be more curious about this aspect. So maybe I'm coming closer to healing it, because these articles are showing me ways in which this may have happened, like childhood experiences, like with the father, or with certain other things that is causing this sense of self being fragmented, or almost like broken. And so there may be other factors in the chart that actually make you have like a strong sense of self in some ways, but there's like an element of your consciousness that feels like, I don't really know who I am. So there's like, this is kind of interesting aspect in that way, that it can show that psychologically there may be something a little bit like that, fragmented, and leaving you vulnerable because you're just so sensitive. So I'm going to finish up, but I just wanted to say that like these articles are really good in making me personally have a better understanding of Sun square Neptune, and I think I would encourage people with Sun square Neptune or Sun Neptune in some way to explore what's behind it and what might be causing it, and why are you having this this psychological and emotional signature. Like if I feel like I'm too vulnerable, or I don't know who I am, or I feel like a sense of self is like broken or missing, then I can look at my childhood. I can look at, okay, well, my father was an alcoholic and he wasn't always there for me in a very strong way, and so that can kind of just, this aspect kind of pinpoints that might have been a reason why my psychology is how it is. And so for other people with Sun square Neptune or Sun Neptune in general, in some other way, maybe an opposition, maybe even a trine, like there is a play between Sun and Neptune happening. Sun is like the sense of self. It's like our solar power. If I want to say, there might be another term that I'm thinking of that I can't think of, but and Neptune is kind of, it dissolves boundaries, and it elevates, enhances, but also confuses and obscures. So there's a very interesting dance and play going on between, the strong sense of self, the Sun, and then Neptune, which is actually coming along, kind of making things a bit weirder. So I hope I expressed that well enough. I probably have a lot more thoughts about this, but I don't want to just make the video too long. But I would encourage people with Sun Neptune to look up information, such as the articles that I'm going to link, about Sun square Neptune or just Sun Neptune in general, and really try and connect the dots for yourself. And it actually gives you, I think it gives you a sense of like empowerment. It gives you a sense of almost relief that like this is a psychological signature that many people have, that can be seen in the birth chart. So it may make you feel a little bit less alone. And it's just interesting to explore the psychology behind our aspects. So if you want more content from me, please do subscribe. And if you have Sun square Neptune, for example, or any Sun Neptune aspect, let me know your experiences, and leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, please. Thank you for watching.